Used tires are a real source of pollution. This pile represents about 100,000 of them. At any rate, these tires will have a second life. They'll be recycled to make rubber mats. Each day in this factory, they recycle 15,000 tires into mats. Tires have to be reduced to little granules, but first, this conveyor feeds the tires into the washer. Tires are washed with a water-based biodegradable preparation. Then they're sent to the shredder. The shredder has 2 rows of large teeth. These grind up the tires into pieces. This shredder is able to cut up almost 1,000 tires an hour. They come out as fairly good-sized pieces of tires, which are then shredded a second time. Metal is magnetically separated from the rubber, and the metal pieces are recycled at another factory. Other components of the tires, such as fiberglass and nylon, also have to be separated. They use a sifter to get out unwanted rubbish. Recuperated rubber particles purged of foreign materials measure about 2.5 millimeters. Some 16 tons of tire particles are piled up in this recycling depot. But the particles are still too large to be used. They're sent to a secondary shredder's supply tank, where they'll be reduced even further. This tractor feeds the secondary shredder. Grinding action produces a kind of rubber powder. The powder is spread out on these enormous molds. This mold has a length of 7 meters and a width of 1.2 meters. Thickness varies according to the product being made. The molds filled with rubber powder are stored in this loading magazine of the press. Once full, the molds are sent to the rubber mat press. Here's the mat press. The powder has to be cooked at a very high temperature for about 30 minutes. Cooking time depends on the product being made. The cooked mat goes through the unmolding unit before being sent off to cool. The rubber mats are still extremely hot. They're cooled with jets of water for a period of several minutes. The cooled mats can now be sent to the next department. This conveyor in the cutting center positions the mat before it's cut. The mat is vibrated to eliminate any surplus water. Each rubber mat is now cut up into 3 pieces. The cut mats are then stacked into a pile and stored before being shipped. The company also makes mud guards. These are fabricated the same way as the preceding mats. After having been cooled in water, but while they're still warm, they remove the surplus rubber. This operation is called notching. Hard rubber rings are also produced at this facility with the same fabrication methods and, as always, from old, used tires. Over a 12-hour period, this facility makes no less than 12,000 rubber mats from old recycled tires. This translates into good news for our environment.
There was a time when exposing your hardwood floors meant you just couldn't afford wall-to-wall carpeting. Not anymore. Hardwood floors are definitely in. And today there are so many wood and stain color choices, hardwood floors can suit any decor. The types of wood commonly used for flooring include red oak, beech, maple, white oak, walnut, birch, and ash. As soon as the wood arrives from the sawmill, workers at the floor factory stack it on racks, then pile the racks floor to ceiling in a dryer that's the size of a large barn. There, large fans circulate hot air around the racks. The wood's moisture content is between 40 and 60%, depending on the season. When that drops to about 7%, the wood is ready to come out. This drying process takes anywhere from 10 days to a month. The length of time varies because some species dry out much slower than others. The wood is in random lengths and widths, so the first step after drying is to cut it to standard sizes. On the way to the ripsaw, the planks pass under an optical device called an optimizer. In mere seconds, it reads the dimensions of each plank and sends that information to a computer. The computer calculates the greatest number of standard-sized pieces that can be cut from the plank, then guides the ripsaw to cut accordingly. This maximizes the yield and limits waste. Flooring is made from medium quality rather than top quality lumber to keep prices competitive. As the pieces exit the saw, workers manually cut out any large knots or other defects, weak points at which a piece could potentially snap and jam up the equipment. The pieces now travel to a machine called the molder. Its revolving steel knives spin at a rate of 6,000 rotations per minute, carving a tongue down one side of each piece and a groove down the other. Workers do frequent spot checks to make sure the tongues and grooves fit together snugly. The next machine carves grooves on what will be the underside of the pieces. This is for air circulation and stability. Then, an embossed wheel imprints the words, "Made in Canada." Using cross-cut saws, workers remove any faults in the wood and divide pieces that have noticeable color variations. This is the first step towards sorting the wood by grade. Now a machine called an end matcher carves a tongue and groove on the two ends. Here's the view from inside the machine. Workers check once again for faults. Then, assessing quality and color, sort each piece by grade. This will be pre-finished flooring, so the pieces now run through a sander to prepare them to receive 8 coats of varnish. For certain finishes, the first coat contains wood stain. All subsequent coats are colorless. Between each application, ultraviolet lamps dry the varnish in just a few seconds. As the flooring exits the last drying oven, it's ready for packaging. Unfinished hardwood flooring has to be sanded, stained, and varnished after it's installed. Pre-finished flooring eliminates that extra work, sparing you the dust, the drying time, and the smell.